Welcome to They Live by Film, a platform dedicated to bringing you film discussion and interviews from around the world. I am Adam Lundy, and I am joined as always by my co-hosts Chris Haskell and Zach Bryant.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, gentlemen. How are we?
I'm
Hanging in
feeling
there
g- feeling
on
good.
a
Feeling
rainy
like
day again.
let's see,
Yes,
what is it? Not rainy for me. Snowy though, or cold at least.
it's
Oh, it's cold. It's
overcast for
just
me.
like just warm enough to just be rain. So it's the worst weather you can have.
What's your? I want to know what you guys consider cold.
Um, I mean, if it, I like 50s is very comfortable for me. So probably
What is it
like
right now?
it is like 38, and I think that's a little cold. Which for you
38
would be like
Fahrenheit. Ooh,
I don't know, like
3. Yeah, that's
yeah,
cold. That's
yeah.
cold. What about you?
Well,
What about you,
I'm in
Chris? What is it?
I'm in Oklahoma right now. I'm not in Texas. And
Oh, okay.
Oklahoma gets actually cold. So right now it's -1 Celsius.
Oh, yeah, that's cold. That's fair enough. We only have a
Um,
couple of weeks of the year where it gets that cold here in Ireland. It's
yeah, in Austin it's about 2 or 3. So it's actually cold in Austin as well.
So you're in the state with the worst road I've ever seen in my life. The roads in Oklahoma are absolutely terrible.
Oh, that's hilarious. I
For
mean,
me in
in
Ireland it's
general,
12 right now.
12. Oh, so you're nice and balmy. We have yeah, Oklahoma. That's where my parents retired. We're up here visiting. My brother had a baby shower. Speaking of younglings on the way, Adam. And he's they're due in February. Anyways, they had a shower last yesterday. Um, so we're up here, and Oklahoma pretty much is just a broken state, Zach. You could say that for pretty much any infrastructure or anything about the state. They're in a deficit every year that's worse than the U.S. deficit, I think. They're
It's
just
like I did a road trip. You guys remember a few years ago, and I drove roads probably of 28, 29 different states, and that was the one I'm like, this isn't a real road, is it? Like, because I'm on a like a major. I'm coming in from Arkansas and all of that, and I'm like, this is terrible. Like, I know you guys have tornadoes, and maybe you don't want to fix it, but this is bad.
no. Yeah, outside of the yeah, Oklahoma is we can have a conver maybe we could watch Oklahoma one day and then the new episodes of what's it called? The Watchmen is based in
Mhm.
Tulsa, so that we could have an excuse to talk about Oklahoma. But yeah, Oklahoma's a disaster. No offense to our Oklahoma listeners.
No,
I
no,
was gonna
every one of
say
them is
anyone
shaking their head like, fuck yeah, fuck these roads.
Yeah.
we have now alienated Australians in Oklahoma and Oklahomalians, whatever you call people from Oklahoma. Zach,
I
who do you
wanted
hate?
Who do I hate? The
Yeah,
French.
the French. Okay, that's
Yeah,
fair. I don't think
I
we've
made
had
that
many
pretty
French
clear. I
listeners.
feel like I've made that clear.
I think that's fair. I could have guessed that one.
I have something that I meant to play earlier on, but if we're gonna be getting into this episode, I have a sound effect to bring in here. One second, ready? Does that come through?
I
No, it
like
does not.
a little bit. Like I don't know what it was.
It sounds like bees on this. This is a series of Vuvuzelas celebrating our 2023 recap.
Oh, wonderful.
It just sounds
Uh,
like bees, though.
yeah, that's what Vuvuzelas sound exactly like, so that's understandable. So yes, listeners, as you can gather by the title of this episode, and obviously we talked about it last week, this is our sort of 2023 wrap-up episode. We're not going to be discussing any films in particular. This week we're just going to be doing just some stuff, just kind of talk about the year. We have some categories that we're going to go through, like our favorites of the year and stuff like that, and various different things. Talk about some interviews and talk about a little bit what's coming up in the new year as well. Obviously, we know what our first watch is going to be of January. If you stuck around to the end of last episode, you'll know as well, but we'll recap that as well, just in case you didn't stick around to the end of last week's episode. Um, Right, we have a few things to get through, gentlemen. Do we want to jump in with the podcast related rankings or the non-podcast related rankings? What's people's preference?
I think we I had a idea, but then I was like, it doesn't really matter. I don't think it really matters too much. Do you guys have a
Uh,
preference?
the the top one on my list that I made arbitrarily is top five that we watched for the podcast.
I mean, that
Perfect.
works for me.
Let's go with
Let's
that then. Let's go. And Chris, while you're there looking at it, you might as well go through. What do you got for your top five?
Sure. Uh, this has been it was funny going back and scrolling through all the movies that we saw this year because a lot of the ones that I recommended were hated, although I hope there was a few good ones. Um, and I was trying to think of who won the year in terms of the three of us, given the format. So I think Zach, I think you might have won it, but we'll see as I go through. So um, Blood Simple for me was one that made the top five. Um, we saw a lot of good movies this year, but God, man, Blood Simple is just so good. And I thought about it for a long time afterwards. Um, I was surprised the more I thought about the movie from Usman Sembène, the Tuki-Buki, the more I thought about it, the more I liked it, and the more I read about it and just sort of sat in it. I think I loved that movie.
Yeah, it's a cool movie.
Yeah. Um, Kiss Me Deadly. I it just I can't believe I hadn't seen it. Um, it's such an amazing film. Like I kind of as I was going through and saw that on the list, I kind of wanted to see it again right then. It was just cool movie, cool ending, like so influential. I just love it. Um, Contempt by Godard. I know we saw a few from Godard, but um, for me, the visuals of Contempt and the way it's shot and the way that they do the characters kind of slightly not human, like just kind of like human, but like slightly, different. The way that French New Waves like to do a slightly larger than life version of humans. I love it, and I could watch it again right now as well. And then I end with a Freeway, um, just another one that like I couldn't believe I hadn't seen it before. Just what a cool movie! What an interesting like script and amazing Reese Witherspoon, and it just yeah, I loved it. So those are my top five that we saw this year.
Nice. Zach, what do you got? Definitely
uh
three Goddards, I assume.
oh, of course. Well, you'll be happy to know he's not on my worst when we get there. So there's that. He gets that's the only credit he'll get from me this
Wow.
episode. So I'm gonna do from five to one. So for the first one I had and I did not choose any that I picked because it probably would have been like four out of mine because it's my preference. So just from YouTube, first one is Dead End Drive-In. That was just like a lot of fun. It was very surprising
Yeah.
for me. It stuck with me. I feel like I'd have more to say about it now that I've let it settle a little bit more. But it's just like a really cool little movie. From there, we have Collateral, which is still Tom Cruise's best role. We did our great Michael Mann episode. You're Next, which would have been one I would probably eventually have chosen if Adam didn't. Um, just a fun home invasion like slasher movie. What episode was that? Was that like was it our
That was one we did
post
with what's it called? Kill List. It was
kill
a
list? Yes, yes,
subversive horror is what we call it.
yes. Subversive. That's the word. Yeah, I was like, I wasn't postmodern because I was like, it's kind of that, but not really. Um, Miami Blues, which is so far the movie I still need to get from Radiance. I have not.
Sweet.
Yeah, I need to get that one. That one was like just a lot of fun with Alec Baldwin. Uh, just a really cool movie. And it had Fred Ward. I had to choose something from Fred Ward since I've excluded Tremors from this list. Um, and then actually didn't end up going in an order. Whoops. But another one I'll finish up with Murder by Contract. Chris, you mentioned Kiss Me Deadly, so I'll pick the other one. Kiss Me Deadly is really cool. There was something about Murder by Contract that just it just also kind of just stuck with me as like a really, I guess, simple noir like that really worked for me. Yeah, I don't have. I feel like we've said a lot about these, so I don't want to go too far into them and just repeat myself from previous episodes. But yeah, those would be I think my top five from what we watched this year.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, that's good ones.
With my top five, I've limited myself to five first time watches, the stuff I watched on the podcast for the first time. So I've excluded rewatches because I felt like a lot of the films I did this year, in terms of my picks, were rewatches for me because essentially my year was mainly spent recommending films to you guys, rather than me picking new stuff. So I've kind of limited myself to stuff I hadn't seen before. And it was tricky to narrow it down as there was a good few, but five in no particular order stood out to me when I was sort of scrolling through our episodes. Um, the most recent one, The Man Who Wasn't There, from our Cohen's
Nice.
week.
It's a good one.
Really, really good film. Really enjoyed it. It's definitely one I'm gonna go back and rewatch probably next year. It's a really, really cool film. Billy Bob Thornton's
Yeah.
fantastic in it. Um, Collateral as well for me. Really enjoyed that. It's the only one on this list that I picked. Oh no, I'm lying. I picked the next one too. Sorry. Collateral though, they're the mix of, I think everybody picked one on my best. So Chris, you had The Man Who Wasn't There. Collateral was one I picked for Michael Mann. That was one of the few weeks where I hadn't seen any of the movies. So Collateral was fantastic. Jamie Foxx and Tom Cruise, whoosh, amazing performances. Great, great film. Definitely my favorite from that Michael Mann week that we did. Miami Blues again as well for me. It's fantastic. Radiance Films have bankrupted me all year, so I got to give them a shout out. I have every release that they've done so far this year, and I have their December releases pre-ordered, so they'll probably be here hopefully by the end of the year.
Just a
Uh,
quick pause. How many releases does Radiance have right now?
let me turn around. Let me just grab my microphone here and turn around so I can see
They
my
should. Oh,
bookshelf.
I'm gonna guess. While you look, I'm gonna guess they're up to spine number 26 or 27.
That's so impressive with how, I mean, it's been what, like since what they started February? It feels like it hasn't been that long.
No,
So
yeah,
they have 23 single releases. Actually, is that a lie? No, yeah, 23 single releases. This is not including the December stuff. So it'll be 24 single releases with December, and there's three box sets out now. There'll be four when the World Noir box set comes out later this month. Um, so in terms of spines, I'm not going to be able to reach that far to see the spines, but they're going to be over 30 spines anyway by January.
yeah.
And you
So
didn't do the deal they had, did you? Like the
no, sir, I did not have the
yeah.
foresight to do the deal.
Yeah. I was just saying probably would have saved you a bit now since you're going complete on them. That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm tempted to do the deal, but I probably won't do it again either. Because I'll have child things to buy, so it's going to be more like,
You were training the kid to have good taste. That
yeah,
you can't put a price on that.
yeah. And sort of tangentially related to Radiance Films, they literally just got a notification that the Mawu Films release of Black God, White Devil is just dispatched, so I'll have that during the week as well. So I'll
Oh,
have
nice.
both of Mawu releases as also, which have been cool. Um, Back to my list. The other one I have here, the next two are both Zach's picks. One is Standoff at Sparrow Creek.
Oh wow,
Um,
really? That's
Really
awesome.
cool film. Yeah, really, really cool film. Hadn't even heard of it before and really blew me away. So I recommended it to my dad as well, because he likes those kind of movies. And it's probably the only time this year I've recommended a film to my father that we've watched on this podcast.
Mhm.
And then the last one, Freeway. Freeway was dope. Reese Witherspoon killed it. Really fun film. Had a fun time watching it. So those would be my five for the podcast.
Sweet. I like. I'm very happy to hear Sparrow Creek on there because I did not expect it.
It
Yeah, it's
almost made
a
mine as
cool
well.
film. Cool film. There was a few others that I couldn't quite fit on there, but and obviously then there was a lot of films that I picked myself that I love, like, You're Next and Kill List and Murder by Contract and Kiss Me Deadly and the Scream movies, obviously, but I wasn't going to put any of those on there.
It's funny because I probably could have picked one from the Scream episodes just because that would have been easy, but I'm kind of glad I didn't because honestly, my eyes like skipped by them. Like I guess because I considered them like a special, so I was like, when I was scrolling through our list, I was like, okay, I can skip those, and I was like, oh, never mind, I could have done that.
Just another dispatch notification that I got from Amazon there, which will interest you, Zach. Titanic 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray.
It looks good. I got mine. It looks
You got
really
it?
good. Yeah,
But
it's much better than the T2 transfer. The
I'm
teacher
really
transfer is still terrible.
I've gotten it for I got it for Neve.
You got it for yourself. It's fine. You can admit that. I
No,
won't
I
judge
got it
you.
for Neve because it's her favorite film, and I
Mhm.
didn't think it was going to be here before Christmas. So now I'm happy because I can just put it in with all our Christmas gifts now, and she'll be really happy with that. So, thanks, Amazon.
Yeah, I
Um,
was gonna get there. Like they had that nice release with it. I'm guessing you just got like the standard one, right?
yeah, it was the only one that was on there, to be honest.
We
The only
have
one I could
one. It
open
may
up.
just be region one, a region A thing, but yeah, it's this huge box set that has like a bunch of stuff in it. And I was
Oh,
actually going to get that, but it was like it never dropped from $153. I was like, if it drops to like
Jesus.
100, and I was like, I would do it, but I was like, no, I'm not paying $153 for this. That's insane. That's like
No,
I
that is
really
insane.
expected it to drop more because a lot of those box sets do. They'll start up real high and then they'll drop real low because that's pretty much what like when I get the Colombian box sets, they start at like almost 200 and then they drop to like half of that by the time they release.
It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. So I
Um,
guess should we talk about the worst one?
yeah. Do you want to go in reverse order?
Sure, let's
Yeah,
do
let's do it.
that.
Okay. I'd like to formally apologize to my colleague Chris Haskell before we begin. Because I'm pretty sure all my worst ones last year were yours, and
Yep.
they are all. And again, this is yeah. So you'll be happy to know no Bruno Mattei film makes my list. I only did three. I didn't do like a top five. I tried to be sensible and just kind of limit it to, well, I suppose technically it's five actually when I think about it. Um, on here we have Graveyards of Honor.
Which
I could
one?
de well, I put both down because
Oh,
I just didn't like it in general. If I had to choose the worst one of the two, it's definitely the Miike one. Would certainly never watch either of those films again. I could just about get through the first one, the Takashi Miike one, never again. Uh, next one, French Can Can. Jesus, that
I
was
forgot
so
about
bad.
that one actually.
That was the
That
one
made
you
my
didn't
list too, don't
watch.
worry.
So that was the one that you didn't watch, mercifully, Zach. You watched The River instead, which,
Yeah, that's right. That's
despite
like I
its
don't.
That's
issues, um, certainly better than French Can Can. And then I have A Man's Neck, which was part of our Duvivier episode. Um, the worst part about A Man's Neck is that I could not tell you a single thing that happened in it, or what it was about, or how it ended, or I literally couldn't tell you a single thing about that movie except that there was a murder in it. That's all I could tell you.
yeah,
And we watched that film like not that long ago. This was in like September, I think. So that
yeah.
really, it's not like it was something from February or something. Then it'd be understandable. But we watched that pretty recently, and I could not tell you a single thing that happens in that film. Um, and then finally, I'll give a shout out to a film that is not definitely not the worst. But it's a film I will never watch again. That's Brimstone. So sorry, Zach.
It's okay.
But yeah, I'll never watch Brimstone again. Subject matter aside, even just the length of it, it's just a drag to get through, even with the really rough content. So I'd never watch it again, but it certainly was not. It's certainly better as a film than the other ones I mentioned. I just wanted to shout it out because I'll never watch it again.
Well, mine is pretty short. I picked three, and it made it really easy because two of them were in the same episode. So I'll copy one of Adam's and talk about A Man's Neck, mostly because that's all I can tell you about it is the same as its name. I don't know anything about it. And the one we watched with it, which was Pepe Le Moco. Is that how you say that? Okay, yeah. Didn't like either one of them. And then I'll clean it up with my reiteration of Fuck Blowout. So those are my three.
Wait, blow, blow up.
Blow up. Sorry, no.
No,
Yes,
this is
blow.
canon. This is canon. Zach hates a Brian De Palma
See,
film.
you're gonna like edit out my correction of that. No, blow up.
I am God here.
Zach hates De Palma, we learned today.
We learned today. I have to do nothing but pick De Palma to like just correct this the entire time next year. Like we're picking two more De Palma films this week, guys.
Honestly, that'd be fun. Blowout was on my top five and then didn't make it at the end. The that was a really fun week actually. Um, okay, my bottom five. Well, so French Can and A Man's Neck, so I'll copy those.
So nobody here liked the man's neck. Okay, I couldn't remember because I don't remember what you said during that episode.
See, that was the episode where we started talking about this movie, and then 2 minutes in we realized we had nothing to talk about, so we just shat on Duvivier for 20 minutes and then moved on to Pepe Le Moco.
Which
Yeah.
is sad because we said more about Cocteau's bullshit movies than we did that one. And I think we
Yeah,
all picked that last year too. It was all of Cocteau's
Yeah,
movies, or at
we
least
did.
one of them.
but I was defending Cocteau, and I can't like Duvivier's films committed the worst crime possible of just kind of being boring. I I did like Pepe Le Moco more than y'all, but not A Man's Neck. And A French Can is just smarmy and slimy and kind of gross and weird, and I don't know. Um, then my other ones, just quickly, I'll say Exorcist 3, and then
Wow, that is
Really?
shocking. Wow. I don't remember you hating it.
Same here. I was like, I don't remember you saying anything too negative about Exorcist 3.
no, but this is gonna get to my bigger point. I'll make in just a second, and then
Okay.
Scream 3 and 6 are abominations of filmmaking. Um,
What a Scream 6 hater. Cannot believe it.
if I had to pick one, Scream 3 especially. Scream 6 was okay, it just dumb. Um, but Scream 3 was just horrible. Can't believe it's a movie.
That's not a hot take, so that's fine.
Yeah, yeah. But y'all, this is my point though. I put Exorcist 3 on here intentionally because I almost left it off because I didn't hate it. But I had, for a brief time, I had How to Blow Up a Pipeline on here because there weren't just a lot of movies that I hated this year. Like, I think, our format is so interesting, to me anyways, hopefully to listeners as well, but like, it's so different. Like our tastes are so different and the kind of movies we pick week to week are so different. Um, but it's been a pretty good year of discovery for me. Like the list of movies that I liked was a lot longer than I struggled to find five that I really didn't like.
Yeah, I think the easiest year we had with this is back when we used to pick just one, and then the other one was like the film club stuff. We'd have to pick one from that. Those were a lot easier to find five you hated because God, the votes that would come up on the Reddit page were pretty terrible sometimes.
By the way, just a plug, let's see, this is coming out Friday, so when this comes out will be the day that we talk about Fear of a Black Hat over on Reddit. And I just have to say for anybody listening, this is Spinal Tap, but with hip hop. It's a funny, funny movie, and I hope people get to see it because it's criminally underrated. Um, we haven't done a plug for the Criterion Film Club in a while, but Fear of a Black Hat should be a great movie to go into the Christmas season with. Just funny.
Cool. So before we go into our sort of best watches of the year, Chris, you have obviously a unique sort of place in this podcast, and that you're the main guy who runs our interview episodes. You're the guy, our connections guy, who reaches out to these people and talks to them and gets all these great episodes out that are really, really insightful. So before we kind of talk more about movies, do you want to maybe highlight some of the interviews you've had this year that you've, particularly enjoyed doing?
Would I ever? Um, we got really, I guess I say this every year, but we got so lucky this year. Some of the people we spoke to, I mean, if you just think about sitting down and having a conversation with Severin, TerraVision, Neon Eagle, Arbalos, Canadian International, just Dark Star, like so many cool interviews. We had our first filmmaker on the podcast. Um, well, I don't know if that's technically true, but we had I think it was the first one I did anyways. Let me say it that way, because I know Zach, you had the filmmaker interview. Um, but just yeah. Wait, was that on your old podcast or was that
Yeah,
ours?
I was sitting here thinking, I was like, he's talking about the one with the guy who did Exigency. Then Maybe I think we've
You,
referenced that one enough. If we ever need a week, I should just cheat and
I
upload
was
that
gonna
one.
say you should just send yeah, just send me the file and I'll upload that. And we'll just pretend it's a
Yeah.
new interview.
It's a cool interview. Okay, fine. So technically this was our first filmmaker then I guess in that way. But if I had to pick five, I just picked it based on um personalities where like just for me they just really clicked, and I think there's some fascinating insight in there or about maybe the way they, the production of these Blu-rays that we buy. Um, so I had to go with Neon Eagle. It's such a cool project between Mondo Macabro and Jesse from Diabolique and from Cauldron. It's a great project and they're doing good work. And I just love the curation from Mondo Macabro. So it's kind of the best of both worlds, getting Jared to curate some cool titles and then him and Jesse to help put them out. Um, then I'm going to cheat a little bit and put Arbalos and Canadian International together because we were lucky enough to speak to uh, David Marriott and well, I should say David Marriott twice. Once with I for Arbalos and then once with John for Canadian International. That Arbalos episode to me is interesting because we go in deep into the structure of the packaging a little bit because they treat every release like a brand new creation, and I spends time at a printer, like feeling paper, looking at color and matching that they have that envelope style that they put the movies in, and he actually spends time like matching that the feel of it and like what's it gonna look like, and is it gonna have like a gloss finish or a particular embossed image and all these things. He makes all these decisions based on the movie and how he wants it to correspond with the movie that's inside. So I love that level of detail. Um, Mike Leader and Arna Venema, just fascinating characters. I can't imagine just like leaving the UK when you're 20 years old or 16 years old or something, and just setting up shop and living in Hong Kong for 30 years, and becoming an international casting director and on every single commentary it feels like coming out of Hong Kong. So fascinating characters. Um, Severin, I love Andrews is just a really funny, honest, open guy, and I love that interview. I love that we were able to get Severin. And Severin and Vinegar Syndrome are both in this category to me where they're really interesting to watch. Did y'all see um, there's an article that came out like a few days back where they were interviewing Sony. They interviewed two other studios, let's just say MGM and Universal. And the fourth uh, company they interviewed was Vinegar Syndrome. And they
That's
were
pretty wild.
talking, yeah, it's crazy, right? And the interview was about the release of one of these movies, Oppenheimer, and how fast it sold out. And it was an article, it was from Variety magazine. So it was not from a niche magazine at all. It was from Variety. And the article was about the strength of physical media. And, they chose three studios in Vinegar Syndrome. So these companies are no longer in the shadows or in the hobby world. I think Severin and Vinegar Syndrome are two that are kind of making it in a really big way, and they're slowly putting out bigger and bigger films as well. So can't wait to see what happens with these labels. And the fifth was Dark Star, and I have to call out Mike just because not only did he introduce us to Lucas, the our first filmmaker for Luca, excuse me, Luca Balzer, our first filmmaker, but he's also just I feel like of everybody I interviewed this year, somebody that I would just get together and drink and just kind of bullshit about movies with. So I love that interview a lot. So those are my faves. And then I have to give a shout out to Elizabeth Yu and Z Xu from back in January, our two graphic artists that went back to back. Just a really cool perspective to think about the artwork behind the movies. But yeah, we got can't wait to see what we get in store for next year. It's going to be another good one.
Absolutely. It's been something that, you've been growing on sort of your side of it. And it's been amazing to kind of see the trajectory that we've done in terms of, Now, look, we started big anyway, when we first did our very first interview with Def Crocodile, obviously they were
Hmm.
only a starter label at that stage, but obviously we've seen how big they've grown in stature and we're getting through all the big boys. We still need to get Criterion. So we'll hunt you down, John D. Criterion. We'll find you and we will interview you, whether you
We
like it or
have we
not.
have I don't want to say this in the sense that there's any certainty behind it, but we have two sort of loose hooks in, and I'm hoping that that can happen next year. I'm going to keep hounding those two hooks until we can try to catch them.
Yeah. You can run, but you can't hide, John D. Criterion. Um, awesome. I suppose the other sort of tangentially connected news, just from a podcasting perspective, we're now an affiliate in a network, I guess.
Yeah,
We're not some weird orphaned child anymore. For those who aren't familiar, but you should be familiar if you're regular listeners. Ryan Farrell and Celeste de la Cabra, who obviously have both been on the podcast even very, very recently, with Chris talking about Criterion Spines, have created their Someone's Favorite Productions, which is a podcast network that we're now part of. So we do have some sister podcasts that I can give a shout out to if you want to go check them out. Obviously, the Disconnected should go without saying, with Ryan Farrell. There's also Unsung Horrors and Movie Mixtapes. They are our sister podcasts now, so feel free to check them out. They're everywhere you can get your podcasts.
so here's a funny coincidence. Unsung Horrors is based in Austin.
Oh,
And I found out I was listening to them like a year, maybe 2 years back for a while, because they find movies on Letterboxd that have less than 1,000 um, logs or 1,000 views, and obviously horror movies, and go deep on them. So it's a really cool, nerdy, but in the most loving way. I mean that, and really fun podcast.
that's cool. It's cool that they're based in Austin as well. Maybe you can do a guest appearance for them sometime.
I'm hoping that happens.
Cool. So we want to talk about our favorite watches of the year then outside the podcast.
Yeah, so this is the one where it's not the 2023 list, right?
Yeah, we'll just do our sort of favorite general watches. Like for me, for the way I've done, I don't know if you guys are doing the same. I'm doing my favorite kind of first time watches that weren't released in 2023, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
films that, yeah, cool. I'll run through mine first and then we can do the reverse order then for the 2023 ones if you want. So I was going through my letter. I've done a lot of rewatches this year. I realized as I was going through, sorting through my ratings for the year and stuff to try and put this list together, I've done a lot of rewatches. But there's a lot of very famous films on my list here that I'm gonna give a shout out to, the stuff that I watched for the first time. Um, One is a Douglas Sirk film called Imitation of Life, which absolutely blew me away. I watched this when I was going through, sort of make my way through the Sight and Sound list. And I'm not a big Douglas Sirk guy. Haven't really liked anything that I've seen from him previously, but Imitation of Life just completely blew me away. It's a fantastic film. If anyone's ever sort of trying to get through the Sight and Sound stuff, this is definitely one of the easier watches. It's a pretty straight melodrama, but the acting performances are really, really fantastic, and it's a great story. So that was really good. As part of the film club, I watched Lady Snowblood, um, which, it's surprising it's taken me this long to watch it, considering its influence on Kill Bill. But that was a great movie. Really, really, really enjoyed Lady Snowblood. One of the best sort of films I watched in the film club this year. Um,
I totally agree.
yeah. The next one for me wasn't part of our Michael Mann episode, but I watched it because I was trying to watch a lot of Michael Mann movies in the lead up to it, and it was Heat. Heat is amazing. I've known for a long time that it's like, it's obviously a classic. Everyone loves it. Everyone talks about it as like one of the sort of best films of that era. I think it was the 90s it came out in, or maybe the late 80s. I can't remember exactly what year it was, but it gets a lot of hype anyway. So I finally watched Heat and I understand the hype. Great film. Um, One film I watched that was based on Zach's recommendation after we watched did our Subversive Horror episode. I watched The Guest from Adam Wingard. Uh Film's awesome.
It's so
Uh
good. So good.
Yeah, I'd really recommend you watch it as well, Chris, if you get the chance. The Guest, it's really, really good. By the same guy who made Your Next. Um,
Yeah, I want
fantastic
to.
film. Absolutely, just such a great time. Just a really fun time. Um, with some really, really neat twists. And then finally, one of Zach's favorite movies of all time, Mad Max Fury Road. Um,
Yes. Wait, this was your first.
finally,
Okay, I did I
yeah,
know that this was the first time you'd watched it?
not sure to be honest.
Wow.
Again, this was part of my Sight and Sound because obviously it made its debut on the Sight and Sound list with the list this year. So again, it was just one of these ones where like I was looking at the easiest ones to tick off in terms of like availability. Obviously Mad Max Fury Road is, it's very easy to get your hands on from a streaming perspective. And yeah, the film's awesome. It's such a fun time. So those are some of my top five first time watches, not counting 2023 releases.
And it's so disappointing. Your baby will be here by the time Furiosa comes out, so you won't get to see that one in theaters either.
That's fine. I'll just wait like 10 years before I watch that one as well. Keep the trend going.
Favorite first time watch of 2026.
Yeah. And I've never seen any other Mad Max movie either. So
What?
So
Oh,
wild.
yeah,
because they're Australian, of course.
exactly.
Um, Adam.
To be fair, the main actor in it is American. I mean, if that helps, he's just speaking Australian.
Not selling this to me, man.
All right, should it be me or Chris that goes
No,
next?
no, go for it, man.
All right, so I'm gonna start from 5 to 1. So for five, I'm gonna have Universal Soldier: Day of Reckoning. I have never seen another Universal Soldier movie. I know nothing about the series. This movie was just really cool. It's this really dark and bleak action movie that like shifts to being like a horror movie like halfway through. Just really neat. Ronnie Harlan, I think, was the name of the director. He's done a few things. He did Sick this year as well, which was fine. It's directed really well. It just wasn't written very well. Uh, Really interesting director. He's got a very unique style. You got Van Damme and everything, so it's that type of movie. But I think it's a little bit better than you'd expect from these old action guys who just keep playing in these like random boilerplate movies. Day of Reckoning is just really cool. For four, I have The Hills Run Red. Earlier this year, I think it was during the summer, I was kind of going through watching a lot of 90s and 2000s slasher movies. And this one kind of popped up that I had never seen it. Scream Factory, I think, did a release for it as well. Uh, it was one that was probably the biggest surprise. It's basically has this mockumentary element to it. It's like not filmed that way, but they're basically trying to make a documentary on this lost film, and slasher things happen. It's really cool. I really recommend it. It's a lot of fun. It's stuck in the age it was made in. Like you're gonna watch and be like, yeah, it's a 2000s movie because of the way it's edited, the way it does certain things, but still so much fun. Number three, I have Walker, which is a movie I've had in my Criterion collection for probably like 2 years now, and had never watched. I bought it because the cover is cool and I like Ed Harris. Um, but really chaotic. Highly recommend it. Ed Harris is great in it. It's probably one of my favorite roles of his. Yeah, and then number two, I have Freeway, which you guys kind of talked a little bit about earlier. Reese Witherspoon is awesome in it. We have a whole episode on that, so I recommend people check that out. So I don't go on too long. And number one was Kingdom of Heaven, which ended up in my top 100 for the year, top 100 in over all time list. Probably my favorite Ridley Scott movie now. Just so good. Like, it's unfortunate that the theatrical cut kind of tore the legs out from underneath the movie in a lot of ways, because I think a lot of people still discuss it in that context of the theatrical cut, and the director's cut is really long. It's like too long for Adam by like 2 hours, because I think it's about like almost, it's like 3.5 hours long.
Pass.
Yeah, I figured, but it's really good. Really, probably just a lot of great performances. I mean, you have Edward Norton, and you don't even see him for the whole movie, but he's like masked up, and it took me forever to realize him, but he's so good in that. He has such a great role. This was like in the middle of Orlando Bloom just doing like everything right in his career, and now I'd never hear from Orlando Bloom anymore. So good for him, I guess. He made it work for that entire decade. And Liam Neeson's really good in it. He's only in like the first half of the film, but he's really good in it. So I highly recommend that one for somehow people haven't checked it out. But I think that would finish up my top five for first time watches.
One one quick thing, Zach. You said Universal Soldier was Rennie Harlan. I don't mean to. I don't care. Like I don't mean to be in the business of fact checking, but it's Roland Emmerich.
Not for day of the not for the fourth one.
Universal Soldier. Oh, Universal Soldier 4.
Day of Reckoning. Yeah, that is John
Oh,
Hyams.
okay.
Sorry, yeah, John Hyams, and he did direct Sick. I got it mixed up with somebody else, but yeah, John
Oh,
Hyams
it's
did that one.
oh, okay. I was gonna say Roland Emmerich is like a big guy, but okay, I got you. I got you.
Yeah, that's the
Number
first one.
four.
I've never seen any other Universal Soldier movie, so I cannot comment on any other ones. I've only seen that one.
Nice, nice. Got you. Okay. Yeah, I don't run, but Rennie Harlan is the guy. I mean, he was a very famous 80s like and 90s action director, but then you said it's a different person
Yeah,
anyways,
it's
but I
John
don't know.
Hyams. I got mixed up. It's John Hyams.
Yeah. Okay, never mind then. I was just gonna say we have to Roland Emmerich is like awesome.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I watch The Patriot like every Fourth of July. I like a little bit of propaganda in my life.
exactly, yeah. Independence Day and all that. All right.
Yeah,
Okay. I don't know that I ranked these. Um, but I'll
I
just
didn't
say,
rank mine to be fair, so
yeah,
don't
okay, cool.
don't sweat it.
Okay, cool. Um, I'm gonna say top 5 watches this year. One of them is not a first time watch, but I just had to put it on here because I hadn't seen it in 20 years and I forgot specifically why I loved it so much. So I'm including it. It's a little bit of a cheat. Um, The Killing. It's I have to at some point I want to do a run of Kubrick and see where it sits, but it might end up being a top 2 or 3 Kubrick for me. I just love everything about that movie.
it
I
even
think
has
it's
Rodney Dangerfield. What's there to hate?
even, and I this is where I'll give him respect. Um, so good. Just I don't know. I think that well, anyways, I loved it. I would say the dialogue to me really stands out uh, as one of my favorite things about that. But honestly, even the angles, the way it's shot and framed, and just the whole thing, amazing. Um, there's a movie coming out or that just came out. See if I can remember the name quickly. Uh, oh, I'll remember the name here in just a second. But it's the second film from a guy named Christopher Borgli, who's from Denmark, I believe. Let me see if I'm gonna get this wrong. Sorry, Christopher, if this is wrong. But he's possibly Norwegian. But it's called Sick of Myself, is the movie I'm trying to get to. And it's a dark comedy from last year. And see, Christopher Bergley is from Norway. Damn. Okay. The movie that's coming out this year is Dream Scenario.
Yes. Oh, okay. Okay.
And this Sick of Myself is amazing. Like if you take the idea of like a cringe comedy, like one of those where you're just uncomfortable the whole time, but put it in the hands of an extremely competent, funny writer where it's not just awkward and cringy, but it's also just funny. Like there are some laugh out loud moments in this. But it's dark, dark humor, like really getting into the mindset of people that are trying to do anything they can to be popular on social media. And the whole premise of the movie is that this woman finds a drug in Russia that's causing people to break out in a skin disorder. And so she wants to take this drug and make it look like she's having uh, like a miraculous skin disorder that she can't explain that just came out of nowhere. So she's setting up her whole life in a way that she can get attention for something that's just being this having this tragic turn to her life. and it works for her for a while until it doesn't. So I don't want to spoil anything, but just a fantastic, well-written movie. Lady Snowblood is on my list as well. I had seen it, but this is the one where I hadn't seen it in a while, and I forgot exactly why. But beautiful movie. It looks, I mean, shot beautifully. I love the blood, the way it squirts. That's like through a hose. There was in fact, I saw an interesting thing. I was reading about a Hidden Fortress from Kurosawa, and you know how wait, is it Hidden Fortress or Seven Samurai, where there's one shot where somebody gets stabbed and there's a squirt of blood?
It's neither. It's Yojimbo.
Oh shit. Okay, sorry, Yojimbo. And that whole thing was an accident. It was just a
Yeah,
faulty hose.
faulty pose. Yeah, and it influenced every samurai thing ever since
Yeah,
then.
I love that. Um, so Lady Snowblood certainly takes advantage of the faulty hose technique. The blood doesn't squirt there, it kind of like erupts. Um, Peter Sulkin set from both Indicator, I'm sorry, both Radiance and Vinegar Syndrome now. Um, The War of the Worlds, Next Century. I would strongly, strongly recommend y'all see that. And let me know if you think it could be a Polish John Carpenter movie. It's just so well made. I don't know how it's just it's I don't know how it's not spoken of more in terms of interesting, quirky, weird sci-fi movies when people make a list of them. Um, it really sits with me afterwards too, and uh, I don't know. I love it. War of the Worlds is the second one in that set. I can't wait to get to the final two in that Vinegar Syndrome set. And then number five for me is Blowout. But I did want to do two honorable mentions. One of them I had seen before. Which is Do the Right Thing. I had seen it before, but just reminded of what an amazing movie it is. And then Adam, I'm gonna bug you, but uh, there's this something happening in Adelaide right now with their horror scene where they're making like borderline family friendly horror movies. I don't know, like the Babadook and Talk to Me. Talk to Me is the one I want to bring up here. I'm fascinated to watch what's happening in Adelaide. Um, and if you can ever get over your intense racism, um, I think you might even like Talk to Me.
Never.
It's an interest. Um, I was chatting with somebody in Adelaide about it after I saw it, and it's just there's kind of a I don't know. There's some excitement around the film industry there, and it's a cool movie and one I wanted to give a shout out to. It almost made my top five, but these other ones were just incredible. So now I guess are we doing a wrapper now to get to the top five movies I saw from this year? Wrapper
Um,
meaning like should we go in reverse order for this?
yeah, yeah, exactly. You start now with your 2023 releases, and yeah,
This is the one I was laughing when I put this together because I told you I was with my family this weekend, so I was laughing to my dad talking about the difference between us. And I said, I've seen about, when this year's all said and done, I'll see about 330 movies, 340, somewhere in there. Um, and I have seen 10 from 2023. And how Zach has probably, I'm guessing Zach, you've probably seen around the same, maybe
Uh,
closer to 400.
Currently, I've seen 426 for the year.
Okay. Okay, geez. Okay. But from your list, essentially 25% are from this year.
Yeah, that'd be about right. It's 101, so yeah, about a quarter.
And anyway, so I have less to choose from, I will admit. Um, but one of I just saw last night, I saw They Cloned Tyrone.
So good.
It's very good. Okay, I have a question for you, Zach, quickly. And I think we're doing okay on time, right? Yeah, yeah. But quick question for you.
Okay.
They Clone Tyrone is a movie that has the same beats and kind of insanity as a John Carpenter movie.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
Obviously,
yeah, yeah.
okay,
I agree 100%.
okay,
It's very light too, and I think that's what makes it kind of more fun to watch.
yeah. Like I could totally have seen him being a producer on this movie or something and helping write the screenplay or but I mean he didn't, but it just felt very similar to me. I love that movie. And this person, Jewel Taylor, is an interesting one to watch. Because it seems that he was a part of a lot of throwaway franchise movies. Like he's been a part of some of the worst movies in a franchise as a writer, and then comes out with this extremely like well written and interesting concept and well written dialogue. And he got an amazing performance out of Jamie Foxx and um, John Boyega. So I can't wait to see what he does.
I feel a little offended that you're suggesting that Creed 2 is not good. Creed 2 is awesome.
Yeah, that's fine. So maybe he's had, I mean, that maybe there's two good movies in his
Oh yeah, because the
background,
other
but
one is the new Space Jam movie, which I'm sure you were more referencing, but I was like, Creed 2 is there too. And Creed 2 is
yeah.
good.
But also wasn't he, I think he was a writer and like, or some kind of a, somehow involved in Rise of the Beast, that one of that new Transformer movies that's, I think, largely considered the worst one. Anyways, but it just shows that movies are not one person, they're made of many people. Because somebody with this much talent is just kind of lurking in the background of these terrible movies. But so top five of the year, They Clone Tyrone, Super Mario Brothers. The more I think about it, I just think it's like a perfect kids movie. Like my son has the attention span of a grasshopper or something, whatever. I don't know, goldfish, whatever has a tiny attention span. And if Super Mario Brothers is on, he's just watching it for the whole time. He's just glued to it. It's just like it's a perfect kids movie. It's not offensive. They don't do that awkward thing that like Ice Age does where they'll slip in like a lesbian joke or something and the kids are like, "Huh?" Um they just I just think it's like a fantastic movie for young kids to watch and I also enjoyed it. Um Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 made my list. Um It's just a really sweet movie. I guess it's like a send off for James Gunn. It kind of feels like a send off of the characters, and it's just it's a movie to me that felt similar to Everything Everywhere All at Once in the sense of it's this grandiose production about a very intimate emotion, and that's probably the only similarities those two movies have. But everything around it, everything everywhere all at once is all tied to this relationship between the mother and daughter, right? And it becomes, and it, the reason that I will always defend that movie so much is they do this, they take you on this journey through this incredible creative universe, but then at the end of the movie, bring it back tightly into this extremely emotionally resonant, like final scene between the mom and the daughter. Um, and then I think, although it's not quite as well crafted, something similar happens with Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And I think it's going to be remembered as a very sweet film in the Marvel kind of catalog. Um, Number four, I'll put the movie from Luca Balzer that we interviewed. Number four is What Doesn't Float, which is a series of short vignettes about New York. It's shot by somebody who I assume is going to win an Academy Award for cinematography one day. Just every angle they capture is just beautiful and perfect, and the stories are interesting, and it's kind of a funny take on uh, you. Every vignette starts in a situation where it could go really bad, like this person could be a pedophile or this person could be a date rapist. Like they kind of start with the worst of humanity, and then it slowly unpacks into not being bad. And I think if I were to guess what the premise of the film is, it's sort of just saying, just be careful to watch your assumptions about people and kind of get, give them a chance. So it's sort of got a message of against the polarization that's happening in the country so strongly. But it's well done. And the number five, I'll put Barbie. Just I gave it 3.5 stars. I thought Barbie was cute. It was okay, but I saw a lot of real stinkers this year, so that made my top five. Uh, what about you, Zach?
Okay, I'm gonna go from five down to one. So I'll start with Godzilla minus one. I am not horribly familiar with Godzilla. I could actually name all the Godzilla movies I have currently seen because I still need to see Mothra because Adam has made me not want to watch that movie, even though it was my pick. But I need to get to that one. But I've seen the original Godzilla. I've seen Godzilla versus Violante or something. I don't know. All I know is some ghost is inside of a rose, and I don't understand anything going on. I've seen Final Wars. I've seen we'll talk about Roland Emmerich again. I've seen the 1998 Godzilla. I've seen the 2014 Godzilla. I've seen Godzilla King of the Monsters, and I've seen Godzilla versus Kong. That is every Godzilla movie I've seen before this one. But even then, I could still tell you that the worst aspect of almost all Godzilla movies is the human story. Yep. Unless I just happen to miss all the ones that have good ones. They all seem pretty garbage. Even the original doesn't have anything that interesting, which is just a shame because Godzilla's barely in that movie. But it's fine. It's an okay movie. -1 is great because Godzilla is not, they didn't pull that thing like in 2014 in the original where they're like, we're going to show Godzilla for about 4 seconds and that's it. There's a decent amount of Godzilla in this movie where it's not overshown. The CGI looks really good, especially for a movie made for $15 million. That's incredibly impressive. And the human story is actually pretty nice. It talks about like survivor's guilt from a kamikaze soldier and how he deals with that and things like that. So it actually has something to connect to in the scenes where Godzilla's not there and destroying stuff. So, it took them about a century to figure that out, but I'm very happy for Toho for making a good story, at least from the ones I've seen. I won't say absolute that they haven't made good ones, but I haven't seen them yet. So that's pretty exciting. I really enjoyed it. I think it does highlight, I think the 15 million has been a huge talking point for the film. I think for good reason, because I think it highlights a problem that you see in a lot of like modern blockbusters where they have this idea, producers do, that you can throw Avatar money at anyone and get a visionary when that's just not the truth. If you have someone who can think of like how CGI implements into a film, they're going to do a whole lot better how to do that properly. And you don't have to reshoot it a bunch of times. It's a crazy concept that you just give money to people who know what they're doing. But yeah, I think that's a good highlight of it. I think it looks great. I think it's a fun movie. I highly recommend it. As for number 4, I got some William Friedkin on here as his final film, which was a TV movie of a movie that's been remade and made as a play like numerous times. The Caine Mutiny Court Martial. I think it's on Paramount, or Paramount helped produce it, one or the other. It's very Sidney Lumet in the sense, just like 12 Angry Men. It's like really just one room, and you're just getting one element of this court case about this Navy man who decided to upthrow his supposedly pretty horrible commanding officer, and his decision to do so, because that's something that doesn't really happen much, to actually commit a mutiny in the U.S. Navy. And it just goes through that. It all takes place in the courtroom. They don't flash back to show you what's happened. They keep it there, and you're just kind of listening to their inflections. You're listening to the way they talk and deciding what's true. And very well directed, especially for so limited. And then it also had Lance Reddick in it, who also passed away this year. So just really cool movie. So simple. Highly recommend it. One we talked about earlier this year, so I won't go too far on it. How to Blow Up a Pipeline. If it still needs to, I still think it's the best editing I've seen this year. I would be very happy if it won best editing. Number 2, Adam, you've read the book recently. Killers of Flower Moon from Scorsese. It is really, really long. It's 3.5 hours, which I assume, Adam, is what you're dreading. It's
the
worth
reason
it.
why I didn't see it in the theaters.
Yeah, it's long, man. It's so long. But I think it really feels more worth the runtime than The Irishman did. I like The Irishman, but this feels like it deserves its runtime a lot more. Just everyone's really great in it. Lily Gladstone is a standout from it, and so is De Niro. This might be one of the best De Niro roles I've seen in quite a long time, because he's so villainous in it. And Leo does good. Leo typically does pretty good. So, and then for number 1, I have Saltburn. You watched Adam, I know you watched Promising Young Woman. I don't think you have you, Chris?
No.
Yeah, same director as Promising Young Woman. It's just a wild movie. If you've ever seen Talented Mr. Ripley, it's like that on some type of drug.
Well,
Like it just like every 5 seconds, it just gets a little bit more wild of what's going on, and as you try to figure out what's going on in it. Um, I think the best representation is my sister went to see it after I did because I recommended it to her, and her text to me was, "I think that movie altered my brain chemistry," and I'd say that that sums it up pretty well. Uh, Really, just great acting. It looks beautiful. It does the I don't think it's 4:3. I think it's the Academy ratio. Just everything about the movie is very beautiful looking. Like you talk about every frame of painting, it fits that. It's very well lit, very well acted, and it's a lot. So that ended up being my so far my favorite of the year. There's several movies I haven't gotten to see yet. Like let's see, Ferrari comes out, Rebel Moon, American Fiction. I was very disappointed in horror. I didn't have any horror on this list, and that is a shame. I'm very upset about that. But yeah, it was a good year overall, just not good for horror.
well, would Godzilla minus one not be a horror movie?
You could count it. I know that gets like a little, for some reason, that gets more controversial than a lot of things for some reason to say like monster movies or horror movies. I consider them, but I figured for this I would, I wouldn't bring up that bring that up and just cause that argument for people.
Oh,
But
fair enough, fair enough.
yeah, I would count it, but I know a lot of people wouldn't.
Well, maybe we can have a brief moment of silence for actor Ken Pachiro Satsuma, who played Godzilla in when the back in the era when he had to dress up in a latex suit and just
Yeah,
walk around.
that just happened like what, yesterday or the day before.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. He
yeah,
just
real sad.
passed. So,
That guy had the
um,
best job.
oh,
Yeah,
amazing.
He just got to
here's some
stomp on
miniatures,
miniature
crush
stuff.
them.
Yeah, what a
And I
great
think
job.
how many times did he save the world and he's not a hero? He should have been president of Japan.
Yeah, here, here.
All right, Adam, bring us
Uh,
home.
yeah, I'll wrap up with my 2023 stuff. So similar to, I've seen more than Chris has, but nowhere near Zach levels. And there's a few films that come out this year. I just haven't got a chance to watch them yet. That I'm sort of looking forward to watching them when they eventually come on streaming and stuff. Things like Killers of the Flower Moon, which is still not on to stream. I can buy it to rent it and stuff, but I'll just wait to stream it. Then there's other films that have come up this year that I want to see, like Past Lives, May December, Saltburn, as you mentioned, Godzilla minus one, definitely. There's a few films I haven't gotten to see that I want to see this year. So in terms of the ones I have seen, number one is not one film but two films. It's going to Barbenheimer. Um, it's just the craziest thing that's ever happened in a long time in film, just in terms of around the culture, the popular sort of culture aspect of it. And both films are great. I had a great time watching both of them. I did the whole meme where I saw them both the same day. I saw Oppenheimer in the
Same.
morning and Barbie in the evening. And it was just a great time. And I don't think we'll ever sort of get something like that organically ever again. So I got to give Barbenheimer a shout out just for that. Um, I put in, I did put in a superhero movie, but not a Marvel movie. I didn't like Guardians of the Galaxy 3 as much as everybody else seemed to. So I went with Across the Spider-Verse, which I think these Spider-Verse movies, they're the peak of Western animation. They're just insane looking. I like,
Yeah.
no wonder they take years to make because the level of detail put into these movies is just astounding. And they're incredibly fun as well. So I'll put Across the Spider-Verse in there. One that I watched literally this week, Asteroid City, the new Wes Anderson film. I'm not the biggest Wes Anderson fanboy. The World Tenenbaums is like one of my favorite films ever, but apart from that, I'm pretty cold on a lot of his work, apart from maybe like Rushmore. And Asteroid City is weird because I don't really get a lot of the metatextual stuff that's happening, but Jesus Christ, this film looks good. And this cast is stacked. Like Margot Robbie shows up for like 5 minutes for no real good reason. Like when you're getting someone like Margot Robbie in your film for like a 5 minute one scene kind of a thing, it's pretty crazy. The cast is unbelievable. The film is utterly gorgeous. I'm wondering when Wes Anderson is just gonna just decide to make an animated movie because he seems to be going on the trend with his last few films where he wants it to make as cartoony as possible but in real life. Um, but Asteroid City, there was just something about it. Just it really stuck with me all week since I saw it. Number four, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. I'm a man of simple taste. I feel if I see Tom Cruise doing crazy stunts, I'll sit there and watch it. Like all especially the last, few Mission Impossible movies, just a great time. Really enjoyable way to spend 2.5 hours. Um, and then one film that I haven't seen getting a lot of love that I really enjoyed is the Dungeons and Dragons movie. A lot of fun. Pretty much all my picks were mainly fun based because I haven't gotten to see a lot of the heavier films this year. But yeah, the Dungeons and Dragons movie just a really great time for the whole family. You don't even have to be into D&D to enjoy it. It sort of does that balance really well where if you know D&D, there's a lot of jokes for you to enjoy. If you don't know D&D, then it's just a fun sort of comedy fantasy film with a really good cast. It's a good story. It's a good fun time. So I would recommend that over the holiday period if you're with your family and you just want to throw something on that everybody of all ages can enjoy and laugh and enjoy. The Dungeons and Dragons movie. You can't go further than that.
I also recommend Dungeons and Dragons. It is a lot of fun. I actually want to rewatch it. I have such good memories of it. Like I think when I left the theater, I was like, yeah, that was pretty good. But then, I remember so much about it, and I'm like, I think
Yeah,
if I watched it again, I would probably rate it a lot higher
yeah.
because I didn't really know what to expect going in.
It's a very inoffensive film. It really tries hard to just be nice and fun. It doesn't try to do anything controversial or anything like that. It's just a good fun time, and you can never be mad at that. So that wraps up our sort of 2023 on the podcast. Next year is going to be an interesting one, as Chris alluded to a couple of times. I'm going to be having a child in April. We're having my first kid, so we don't really know what's going to be in store for the podcast come kind of April time for a couple of weeks. I think I'll just sit out, and Chris and Zach are going to have some crazy stuff to talk about, all the films that I normally veto. So that's going to be the birth of They Live by Film nights or something. I guess. Well, I'm sure we'll have some more interviews, as Chris mentioned before. There is a new format we're going to play around with early in the year. We're not going to give too much spoilers around that. Something that we're going to try. We're still going to do our normal kind of format that we've been doing this year that we all seem to really like, because it gives us an opportunity to watch just a whole bunch of different types of movies, but also stick with themes every week, which I think is fun. But we're going to try something a little bit different early in the year. We'll talk about that as we get kind of closer to that. Just before we sign off, Christy, just want to remind listeners what we're going to be talking about when we come back in the second week of January.
I would love to do that. For everybody listening, I hope you have a wonderful Christmas season and New Year's. Look forward to another year. Where are we? We're up to episode. Sorry, I should know this.
This will
120.
this will be episode 125, if I'm remembering correctly. This one that we're doing right now.
Amazing. So we're gonna cross 3 years of podcast at some point next year, which is no more than that because we didn't do it every week for a while. So we'll
Oh yeah,
be
this is the first year we really did it. We really tried to do every week.
so this is year 3, right? So we're starting year 4 because we did December was when we started, right?
It was
So
around
we
November-ish time, I think. Yeah.
yeah, so we'll be going into year 4. What a crazy fun ride this has been. Um, the podcast, just like life, has seasons, and I think what better way to celebrate those seasons than to watch 3 classic films from Yasujiro Ozu, who are all centered around the same woman, dealing with marital and relationship issues and the relationship between her family and her romantic life, different stages of her life. We'll watch late spring, early summer, and then late autumn, and pay attention to those films because Ozu likes to make movies about seasons. But we'll be doing late spring, early summer, and late autumn. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure this year as always, and look forward to a lot of fun next year.
Likewise. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.